Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show. My name is Elle Russ, and I am a #1 best-selling author and master coach. My intention is to inspire, educate, and motivate you with weekly content featuring amazing guests and solo episodes. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about me, my courses, free masterclasses, partner discounts, and much more. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, I have Erica Rooney with me. She is an executive coach and HR consultant and chief people officer and host of the podcast From Now to Next. Welcome to the show, Erica.
Hey, Elle, it is so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I could tell in just the 2 minutes that we chatted before recording that you're a badass, and I can see why it is your mission to help women get seen and get heard. You seem like you have a high level of confidence and forward declaration of oneself, like no issue with self-promotion, just very easy to speak with. And so I just want to compliment you on that and see, right away, I was like, oh yeah, of course you should be doing this work. She has that vibe about her. Tell us, how do you even get into this? How do you become an executive coach? Tell us about your life and how you landed here.
Oh man. Well, first of all, thank you for all of those wonderful things. It's so funny because I hear you say those things and the first thing that comes into my head is like, oh my God, but it was not always that way.
Good. Well, that's great for people to know, because some people feel like this is something that has to be inherent within them. And if they don't have it, they can't develop it.
I absolutely do not, subscribe to that. I believe
Sure.
that it is something that is built over time. And I believe it takes a ton of courage. But to dive in a little bit about who am I, how did I get here, that whole gig is, I started my career in health and wellness, and I thought at the ripe old age of 22, 23, that I had found the career I was going to retire from. And I just couldn't believe it. Well,
and what was that? What was that vision, that career that you thought okay, this is it, I'm done?
Yeah. So I was actually a corporate health and wellness trainer for Verizon. So they had an on-site gym, and I was helping the employees of Verizon be healthy and fit and focus on nutrition. I was teaching boot camps and yoga classes. And it was a really great starter career. And it checked all of the boxes of things that were important to me, because my core mission has always been to help people. It's always been my why. And I very early on got into personal training and loved it because I could see very tangibly how I was helping people. And I was able to, flip that into a career, which was amazing. The only problem with that is I also have a very high level of a growth mindset. Like, I am always trying to learn something, do something more. And in the fitness and wellness career, there's only so far you can go. That corporate ladder is only so high. And I really felt that the corporate ladder was the only way to get to the top at this point in my life. So I was kind of like, well, gosh, I can't keep doing this. Like, the only way you really keep growing is if you are Oprah's trainer or something. And I didn't have any connections to Oprah, still don't. But I wasn't,
hey, if you get any, let me know. Yeah.
If you got any hookups, let a girl know. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I just kind of started throwing things at the wall to see what would stick. I got my project management certification, and I took a few classes in human resources. And the more I started down the human resource path, the more I found the connection to that why. I could still help people and I could still climb the corporate ladder. So I was like, sweet, I'm all in here. So I started learning a ton, and I got into HR and very quickly climbed the HR corporate ladder, made it all the way to the C-suite. So still to this day, I'm a chief people officer by day. And then I do.
Will you explain C-suite to people that may not understand?
Yes, thank you. So C-suite is that top level of the organization. They are the decision makers, the heads of the functions. You're talking CEO, chief people officer, which is chief human resources officer, which is what I am. Chief financial officer. So they are making the decisions. They are looking at revenue numbers and how to grow and scale the business.
It's the goal of many people who enter corporations, is to get to this level.
It is the goal. There's only so many spots at the top, even fewer filled with women. So I love to highlight that. And,
and congrats on that glass ceiling too, crashing.
Thank you very much. But once you get there, at least for me, is I felt so pulled away from helping people. even though I was helping everyone in my organization, all 350 employees, I was helping them with growth plans and, get increases and promotions. And I was helping every single person, but I wasn't having those one-on-one conversations because it was at a company level and I pushed it down. So my team was doing all that work and I just felt a little bit disconnected and missing that why. So that's why I got into executive coaching. And I really found that my passion was working with women who are trying to do all the things, right? Like we always have this question of like, can you have it all? Some people say you can, some people say you can't. I'm the believer that you can have it all because I believe that I do, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
you do for you, for what all
I do for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And my all may not be somebody else's all. And that is the
I know mine isn't.
right. That is the thing that is important to note is that it's very different for everybody, right? So I talk a ton about like how I do it all. And the spoiler alert is that I don't. There are a lot of things that are extremely important to other women that I know that I don't touch with a 10-foot pole because it doesn't light me up in any way, shape, or form. You will never catch me volunteering for the PTA.
Thank you. You're I'm with you. Yeah, but that's very important and feels great.
It's very important. God bless every other woman who does it, but it will not be me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Hey, let me ask you a question really quick. Yeah. So before we get deeper into this, just define for everybody how you define what an executive coach is, does, who they work with, etc.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different for most people, but the very general audience is that you have someone, hopefully it is a certified person. So there's different, a lot of people are out there calling themselves coaches, but if you're going to be a true executive coach, there are credentials that you can get, but you've got the experience behind you and the knowledge behind you on how to guide someone forward on the journey in life, right? As it relates to business, as it relates to working in corporate America. It is not therapy. We're not here to talk about those deep-rooted problems, but I work with women on exercising their confidence muscle, establishing executive presence. What does that look like? Mm-hmm. How do they organize their teams? So I help them grow as a professional. And then I also help them balance their life with all of that. And that's why I really love doing it with women, because as women, there is a lot on our shoulders that is not on a typical man's shoulders, so that's kind of what being an executive coach encompasses. I do a lot of one-on-one sessions with my clients where every week we kind of tackle the problems that they're having within the week, in addition to going over their higher arching goals. So
let me ask you a question. This just came up for me, and I want to because if there's someone listening, I obviously don't work in a corporation right now, so but I just thought of a scenario. What if you're working for a company and the HR person is shady or you don't trust them? Who do you go to complain to? Do you have any suggestions for that? I just thought of that in a minute and I thought, the value of HR and what they do. And then I thought, but what if you're somewhere where you don't, you know what I mean? You don't trust that it's,
Well, and this is what totally gets me about HR, because I feel like there's good forces and there's bad forces, right? Like there's good HR and there's bad HR. And I see in so many places, and people will say it to me, they're like, oh, your HR is only for the company. HR is only looking out for the bottom line. And that is not our true job, right? Like the true job of HR is to be the voice of the people, right, and to protect the business, right? So it's to keep the business from making stupid decisions. As a leader, I don't let managers fire employees because they don't like this person, or because they're discriminating.
Right. Or you're like, by the way, the employee just got injured. We don't fire injured like that, prevent
we don't do
illegal
things,
or check with HR, make sure. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
So, but okay. So assuming, so
that's good HR and bad HR, right? But if you have bad HR, like what the heck do you do?
Yeah.
I hate this question. Like it's a love-hate question because it's an important one and it happens all the time. But number one, always document your stuff.
Thank you. Yes.
In the legal world,
every conversation, write it down.
Write it down. In the legal world, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. Right. So
I remember 25 years ago when I was in the corporate world, there was an older secretary at the time. She was 65, but she told me, she said, listen, she goes, and this was but way before we were typing stuff into apps, right? We didn't even have that. So she was like, listen, and she pulled out she goes, I had to go to court once and I brought in 10 boxes of my Franklin planners. every conversation, everything. And she, was able to be like one of the best witnesses for whatever that situation was, because she had documented every conversation, every task she did each day by using like a Franklin planner, which they're probably online now, obviously. But yes, please, everybody, document conversations, email them to yourself to timestamp them, whatever. As a diary, do what you got to do. They are valuable if you have a problem later.
Absolutely. And things you don't even think are going to be problems can sometimes be a problem, right? Like, so just document the heck out of everything. That's always step number one, because that's the CYA, right? To cover your ass. So document the heck out of everything. And you can try to escalate it with your leader or with your N+1. Find someone in the organization that you do trust is step number one, if you can, right? And I hate to say it, but sometimes if you've got shady HR, there's no one in the organization that you can trust, it's time to leave. It's time to leave.
Gotcha.
I hate it, but those would be my two biggest. Document the hell out of everything, find someone you can trust, talk to them about the problem and document that conversation.
Right.
And then
unless if you get disabled on the job, okay, and you haven't filed a workman's comp claim, or you're in the middle of one, don't quit.
Yeah, that's a different situation.
That's a separate situation, but I just want to let everyone know, like, you could be dealing with a tough HR on a workman's comp or whatever you're dealing with, but if it's an injury-based situation, definitely don't quit, because now you've lost all those benefits. So, all right.
And too, if it's a discrimination-based one, like, don't necessarily quit then either. Just continue to do good work, continue to dot your I's, cross your T's, and document, Yes. I'm thinking more along the lines of, like, if you just can't get along with somebody and HR is never going to help you out, or you can't get promoted and HR is never going to help you out, it's time to leave, right? But if there is a true something that you could go to court with, stay where you are, grit through it and make it happen.
All right, let's talk about getting your mission to helping women get seen, get heard, get promoted. You talk about by breaking them out of their, quote, sticky floors and busting through that glass ceiling. So what are the sticky floors? What's sticking these chicks to the floor?
Yeah, what is not sticking us to the floor is probably an easier question, right? Because as women, there is so much out there that is just weighing on our shoulders. It's keeping us down, right? We have the mental burden of the woman, even more so if you're a mother, mental burden of the mother. We have expectations. We're told to lean in, but not too far. We're told to speak up and not too loudly. We're told to work like we don't have kids, but be a mom like we don't have a job. Like, we just can't win, right? And we're not even going to hit gender pay equality for another 132 years. That's according to the World Economic Forum. So
you're going to make it to the C-suite, but you're not going to get C-suite prices quite yet.
Yeah, well, you just ain't going to make as much as the man next to you, Right. So what can we do within our own control, to break through these glass ceilings, right? How can we look at a situation that is really crappy, which is, gender equity in the world, and do everything that we can to move the needle, but also drive ourselves forward? And my belief is that we are stuck in these sticky floors, these limiting beliefs like imposter syndrome or perfectionism. It could be the fear of failure, the fear of being judged by others, even toxic behaviors and relationships that are holding us back. And that's what's holding us back from busting through the glass ceiling, because we're too scared to speak up, right? We're scared to ask the question. We're scared that the work isn't perfect. We worry what others will think. And if we can work through, and I have this 3-step method that I apply when I'm working with my clients to work through the sticky floors, we can bust through the glass ceiling.
I want to just, everyone obviously can hear this already who knows me. You guys, here's another great confidence coach for you when it comes to executive life. Right here, you are all the things you've mentioned. So, look, studies have shown there is a correlation between confidence, happiness, confidence, incomes, confidence, and success. All the things you're talking about are things that are inherently related to self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, self-acceptance, right? All of that inner work. In order to be a woman, look, I have dominated in 2 heavily male-dominated industries. Do you know what I mean? I would say I couldn't have done it without important male mentors. Thank God for them. Right. So there's that. On the other side too, though, I've been in the boardrooms, I've been in the corporate world and everywhere else. You have to speak up. That takes confidence. This woman is going to help you do that, right? Or, people who already know me who've benefited from my confidence work. But that's what it's about. You have to be able to interject, speak up. In fact, you can still be somewhat introverted, but you're going to have to take steps and certain moves. I mean, think about just getting ahead, throwing your hat in the ring. I talked about this on a podcast recently, just throwing your hat in a ring for a promotion. You need confidence. You need to step up to say, hi, I know that there's this thing available. I'd love to blah, blah, blah. And let me know, is there things I could work on? If you don't feel I'm already there, how can I get there? You have to appear hungry and confident. And lastly, I'll say that when I used to hire people, and this is, I think, generally true among like people who hire, I'd rather hire a more truly confident person overall who has less of a skill, but belief because they're confident they can attain it, versus someone who has all the skills but has zero confidence. Does that make sense? And expand on any of that.
It does. It does. And that's the thing, is that confidence can be trained, just like any muscle in your body.
Yep.
You can train your confidence to be stronger, and you can train your mind. I mean, this is the beautiful thing about the mind, right? The mind is malleable. The neuroscience is there to show you that you can change these thoughts that you have in your head. It's not going to be easy by any means. It takes courage, right, to speak up. It takes courage to ask for the promotion. But if you can just do that, if you can just put the work in, then you can be up for the promotion. Elle, I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have said they didn't put their, hat in the ring for a promotion, because they didn't think that they should get it. And then when they talk to their leader later, their leader's like, well, I had no idea you even wanted it.
100. Oh, you know what? My life is the story of this quote. Never hurts to ask.
No, never. Right. And so as part of what, like, my 3-step method that I do when I work with women, is the first one is naming what that is, right? What is it that's holding you back? Are you scared to apply for the job? Are you nervous to ask for the promotion? Do you lack the confidence to do a keynote speech? What is it? So let's name that, and then let's question it, right? Is it true? Is it helpful? Right? Because sometimes it is true, but it's not helpful. Is it true? Is it helpful? Does it make me happy? How does this add to my life? How does this take away from my life? And then the one question that I love to ask is, what's the worst that could happen? You put your hat in the ring for the promotion, you don't get it. Okay, maybe you do.
It's my favorite one, by the way. I just want to interject because with anything in life, when someone's worried about trying something new, or like you said, throwing a hat in the ring, but be trying something new profession, new anything. And they're like, and you're like, well, why aren't you? Like, well, oh, I don't know. Like, what if it doesn't work out? And then you're like, but then you're right back to where you are right in this fucking moment.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. All right. So you're right here, but right here, you're kind of not happy, but so what do you have to lose?
Well, and that's step 3, which is to shift it, right? So name it, question it, shift it. So all I want you to do is just reframe that, right? Go from like, I'm screwed, to I can figure this out, or this is hard, to maybe something like, well, this is hard because I've never done it before, but I can learn, right? Just add a little tiny shift to how you are currently looking at something so that you can see it differently. So you can see the other options that you didn't think were there before. That's all it takes, and those are all of the things that will add up to how you change your life. It's not going to happen overnight, right? Like, we can't change some of these things overnight, like discrimination and bias, like what we were talking about earlier. But having that mindset shift is going to change your ability to face whatever you are looking at, empower resiliency, empower resourcefulness and courageousness, right? In the face of some of these things like bias and discrimination. And when you flip your mindset, it allows you to do that.
All right. I love that. And I also want to bring up a couple of topics here and see what your thoughts are.
Let's do it.
So I haven't worked for like full-time for any corporation for like 25 plus years. Like happily. Okay. It's like I've been a contractor for a few people here and there, but again, no beholden to anybody. Right. So what I've noticed over time is this false sense of loyalty people have for companies. I see this happen all the time. They are, like they want to quit, or they want to do something, or they want to ask for something, but it's like never a good time. They're too worried about the other people feeling the ethics of like team, or will I look bad, even though it's not a negative thing they want to request or do or whatever it is. But there's this very interesting, it's a little bit like Stockholm Syndrome, because then the company will change all this shit, fuck with their lives. Oh, you get to work from home. Don't worry about it. Up shit. No, we're in the office next week. And then the people still jump with this loyal game. And I feel like I have to continually remind my corporate friends, you could be fired anytime, you're at will. They don't give a shit about you. Again, it's not to say you don't work for a great company with great benefits and great managers, right? I've known people that work for companies here in LA that are like incredible companies. But so I want to hear your thoughts on this, because, I remember one time a 60 Minutes episode from literally 30 years ago. And it was AT&T at the time had done major layoffs in New Jersey, like fired 40,000 people. And there was a couple who had worked for them for 40 years. And I remember her sitting there saying, it's not fair. They were fired 2 years before their pension. And they were like, we worked there for 40 years. And I hate to say this, but again, this was my thought at the time. What the fuck made you think that they were going to be loyal to you? So you know what I mean? That's such a harsh thing. It's a strong example, but can we talk about this?
No, it's a very real thing. And I do not subscribe to the fact that my team is like my family, right? And it goes both ways, right? Like if somebody on my team gets a job where they're going to be making $50,000 more a year and I can't match it, bye girl, like go get that money, right? They're not going to stay. And businesses have to make hard decisions sometimes, and it's not family. That is not how, in theory, we would treat our family. So I don't subscribe to that. And it's very true that it's harsh. And I think it hurts people's feelings because they give so much of themselves to a company, right? And I think where this ties in, as we're talking through it, it's like dinging in my head, is we tie up so much of our identity in what we do.
Yes.
Right. I'm a chief people officer. I'm this. That's the first thing we ask when we meet somebody. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
We tie so much of what we do into our identity that it becomes a piece of who we are. So when our companies lay us off after 40 years or do something that we think they would never do, break our trust, it's just heartbreaking. But we really have to separate who we are from what we do. And when we do that, it actually opens up so much more possibilities, right? And it really expands what we're able to do.
I love that what you do, classic question.
Yeah.
I love it because someone told me a story once. They were like in Ireland, they were in some country pub somewhere, and they sat down, they were talking to some, old dude in the village or whatever. And then he's like, oh, what do you do? And the guy's answers were like, I fish. They were all the things. And then he was like, oh no, I meant, what do you do? He's, oh, you want to know what I do for work? Like
that's so boring. Why would you
why would you want to know that? Such a difference in the way that it's almost like sort of like how Europeans like work to live, where we sometimes need to work, although we're changing that vibe.
They're talking about what they do for fun, not what they do from 9 to 5.
Right. And so that's that identification. And again, you get too deep in there, you get too attached, and you can find disappointment. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be loyal and a good employee. It just means please put in perspective and don't throw all of your financial eggs and everything into a basket of at-will employment.
Yeah.
What are some things that you hear classically come out of women's mouths when it comes to like the need to step up or get themselves out there?
I work a lot with women and I see just this, everyone is mad, and I get it. Everyone is mad about the patriarchy. They are so damn tired of it. And I know that's like, sounds super feminist and everything, but it's the little things. It's the things that you can't put your finger on as a means of discrimination or bias, but that are real and that exist. And what I mean by that, and I'll use an example, is a lot of men love to golf, right? They just do. I'm not a golfer. So if everyone on my executive team who's a man, and I'm the only woman on the executive team, wants to go out golfing one day, they're probably not going to invite me because they know I don't like golf. But guess what? At that golf, what is it? A golf range, a golf field? See, I don't even know enough about it.
Yeah, well, it's a very old school network type of sports situation.
There will be conversations that are had. There will be problems that are discussed. There will be decisions that are made, and I am not present for that. It's not done maliciously. It's not done with intent. It's natural, and it's natural to form these friendships with people who are like you. But then I am left out of that, right? Relationships, I'm not forming the same ones that they are. So there's very real things like that that happen in corporations and in institutions where women are left behind. There's women who, as the only female in the room, the decisions are made outside of it. Their perspective is so important, but it's not accounted for. So women right now are really angry at like this good old boys club that still exists.
Yeah. Well, and also too, people like, I guess one could give the advice like, hey, you want to get ahead in the corporate world and in business and entrepreneurship, start playing golf because that's where we're going to meet all these people, right? But here's the thing, golf is fucking expensive. It takes a lot of time. Like, it's prohibitive for people who are down at a certain level trying to build up, right? You know what I mean? So there are so many like little bit of barriers with that sport.
But even like take for example a small thing like, hey, let's go to happy hour after work, right? A lot of people can go to happy hour.
Yep.
If you're a mom, you might got to be to daycare at a certain time though. Happy hour after work doesn't jive for me, right? Like it's hard to balance all of these things if you have a, couple, we're going to use very standard here, a same-sex couple with 2.5 kids, whatever. And they're in daycare, the majority of that work historically falls on the mother. The mom's got to get her ass to daycare by 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever time, pick them up before the timer starts ringing on them. And then dinner, bed, bath, If you have an after hour happy hour, you are either making it hell on that mom who now is not home taking care of the things, or B, excluding her.
It's a hard life, lady. I just want to say to all the single moms out there too, because my mother was a single mother and they are like my favorite people in the world because they're saints. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? The good ones, of course, not the single mothers on the street who are not.
But moms do the most, and of course, this is always generic speaking. I know there are fathers out there killing the game too, but moms do the most.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say organizations have to be better about being mindful and inclusive of the events that they do, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're having this after hours happy hour, not only are you excluding mothers, but you're also excluding maybe people who don't drink alcohol or don't want to be around alcohol, right? So think about the types of things that you are doing and planning in good faith, right? I mean, you're doing that as a team building activity, but it has some real consequences.
Excuse me. I would love to hear success stories, people you've worked with. Yeah, you've worked with people who've gone from A to Z. Let's hear some inspiring ones because I know you got them. And I've just seen people. I mean, because I've also been in organizations where they've grown and I've gotten huge and I've been with them. I've also seen, and it's so lovely to see people coming in, as I'm sure my mentors felt about me, people coming up, like getting it, going it, right, and doing it. And so it's so nice to see someone start, and then get to a certain level. Like I have a friend who's about 16 years younger, and I've watched him go from making like 40,000 a year to some whatever, filing paper job to becoming like a huge manager at a major corporation. And it is so wonderful to see the levels of confidence, the growth, the ladder stepping. So let's hear some of those.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, one of my favorite stories, it was with this one woman who had a high-level job. She was a VP, but she just felt kind of stuck, right? Like she'd been at this corporation for, I think it was almost 7 years. She was at a point where people who were underneath her that were men were making more than she was, but she had been there longer, and she was just kind of frustrated. She didn't know what to do. And we started kind of going through the process of, you've got several options, right? Like you can assert yourself in this corporation. We can talk through this, that, and the other. But she was like, you know what? I really think that it's time for me to consider looking elsewhere. Great. So she started looking elsewhere. She was still really kind of lacking in confidence as it came to like, I've been here for 7 years. I'm a single mom. I've got these kids. Like I know my schedule. I know my routine. And even though it sucks, I know it, right? I know what to expect, but we pushed through and she was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the interviews. got her to get really confident in presenting herself in her interviews and how she presented her leadership skills and how she was ready for this next level role. Got her really confident when those negotiations came into play and like, what are we going to do? And in the middle of negotiations, guess what happened?
What?
She got laid off.
No.
In the middle. She gets laid off, but then 1 week later, she had 2 job offers.
Beautiful.
And it was amazing.
Love it when that happens.
40% more money than she was making currently.
Wow.
So not only then she had a nice little severance package and she had a new job. So it ended up working out really well for her. But, you know, we had to do the work on what we were talking about at the beginning, the confidence and getting out of your own way, right? Asking yourself, okay, if I apply for these jobs, what's the worst thing that could happen? I don't get them and I stay here, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's getting really okay with rejection.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Which is confidence. It's not taking it personally. It's the whole thing, right? So, and there's a lot of levels to that. But again, it goes to show you, and your work is why you're doing what you're doing. Because in order to get ahead in this way, in order to be a leader, an entrepreneur, an executive at a high level, you have to have confidence. You have to have the things we're talking about. And I'm so glad that you are offering what you do to help women achieve that.
Yes, it is so important because it's so easy to not have that confidence. And it's so easy to even let that confidence slip away, right? Things happen to us throughout our lives that can erode at our confidence. You can be in a really crappy job. You could have a terrible relationship and you could be killing it in one area, but not doing so great in another. And it could just wipe away all that hard work that you put into it. So it is so important to constantly be working on what I call those sticky floors, to pull yourself out.
I love it. Let's hear some more achievements and things of people sort of getting over themselves and being able to finally step up and get it.
Yeah. So another one that really resonates with me is one where a woman at a SVP level, she'd been in this role for about a year, was being extremely micromanaged to the point where she's like, I can't operate like this. Like I'm working 12-hour days. I still don't feel like what I'm doing is enough. Everything I'm doing is wrong. I got this feedback. I don't know what to do with it. I'm feeling super bad about it. And I just posed the question, is all feedback necessarily good feedback?
Yeah.
And she was kind of like, yeah, I guess you're right. This is kind of some bullshit, for lack of better words, right? And we worked through this mentality of I have to fit in here to maybe this isn't the fit for me. And we worked on the confidence to take what feedback worked for her and leave the rest, but then also to start looking, because she realized that this company did not suit her needs, right? So flipping that mindset again of like, I don't fit in here to this company isn't working for me is so much more powerful than it's me, right? When she and I first started working together, her confidence was in the ditch because she just felt beat down, berated, micromanaged. And I told her, I said, you were an SVP. You didn't get here, on a whim. You got here because you're talented.
You got to remind yourself who you are.
Right. You have the skills, you have the knowledge. I was like, you just happen to accept a role at a company that doesn't suit you. That's okay. We can return it and go find a new job.
Right. People have said that before, like, well, what if I move to a different state and I don't like it? Well, then you move back. It's like things are fixable. Nothing is, it's a very interesting thing how we will jump to a conclusion of it being the final permanent end result of any particular endeavor we might jump into. And what a stagnant approach. I want to go ahead.
I was just going to say, the thing that we all have to remember is that it is so easy to spiral down, right? And to take that one little piece of terrible feedback or bad news nugget and just spiral down this self-deprecating roller coaster that doesn't do anybody any good. So you've got to take the power of your mindset and just shift it, right? So again, take that, like, this isn't going to work out, to, but what if it does? Mentality.
I want to throw out an example. And then along the way, maybe you can think of some other ways in which people trip themselves up with worth, money, when we're talking money. So I have a friend who is highly confident. He's one of the most confident people I know. High core, he makes like, 250,000 a year, up there. And he got an offer from another company for a new job. And that, let's say they offered him like, here, we want to offer you 260. And so he showed me the counter offer letter. He was like, hey, can you take a look at this? It happens all the time with, as a writer and also as a confidence person, people come to me, right? So he's like, hey, all right. I look at this letter and I immediately see a paragraph that needs to be cut out immediately. It's like the lowest confidence shit I've ever seen. And I said, I'm like, hey, can you see which paragraph I hate? Could you guess? And he's like, read. He's like, no, I don't. And it was like the third paragraph where all he did was give reasons why he, quote, needed the money. For example, he was like,
oh God.
Yeah, right. So he's like, and I've written posts about it, whatever. He's like, as you know, I have a daughter, is this college, and and then I have a daughter. And I said, no. And here's the truth. And this is what I taught about this example. It doesn't matter if you spend your entire salary at Hooters and fucking NFTs, none of their business doesn't matter. You only give reasons why you, as an employee, are worth the money, not why you fucking need it or want it.
Oh, yeah.
Also, people could be judging that. They might be like, well, you had 3 kids. That's not my problem, right? Like any kind of those reasons why you need can be reasons people can object to personally. And then you're creating a sense of judgment that can happen. So I always bring up that example to show a couple things. To everyone listening, this is why it's good to have a confidence executive coach like Erica, because throughout your career, my friend has me, right? So he called me on that. I'm really glad we canceled that out of that counteroffer letter, right? And you might need people along the way for stages or for certain things, right? I got a presentation, I got a meeting, or I've got a negotiation. And then you have you in their corner to help sort that out, because even confident people have moments. He's really confident, but we all have moments. And I caught one. So on the heels of that example, what are some other ways that you see people are like, doing that terrible paragraph where they're shorting themselves in some way with worth, with salary, or what they're willing to ask for and how they ask for it?
Oh, well, that's
loaded. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, but I mean, just to take it back to the need, I need this money, that will drive any HR person crazy, because at the end of the day, if you are working for me and I am your employer, this is a transaction, right? I am paying you for skills that I need. I'm not paying you for your needs, right? Yes, we all work for money, but like when people come to me and they're like, you know what, I need a raise because my mortgage went up. Well, that sounds like a problem for you. Go get another job. So I want to empower people. A lot of what I do, I call coach-sulting, because I want to empower people to do the things that will make the biggest impact in their lives, right? And sometimes it's just coaching them and like, hey, that's a terrible way to go about this. Let me tell you, let's talk instead about how you can get that more money, but also why you deserve it, right? How do you bring value to the organization? And that kind of brings
I just want to highlight that the value is from what you bring to the organization, right? That the value of the money, it's not the value of what you need. You gave the thing that I hadn't put on it and haven't been able to grasp, or you know what I mean? You just,
yes. Yeah. But then like to parlay on that this is what I see in the women that I coach a lot, is they do not believe that the things that they do or the things that come easy to them add real monetary value. Therefore, they fail to ask. So, for example, as a profession, being in HR, I can read through your resume really quick and pick out what's great and what's terrible. Mm-hmm. It'll take me 5 minutes, right? There are people out there that charge $350 for a resume review. But a woman sometimes will be like, oh, I'll do that for you, no problem, real quick. I got it. Because it's easy for me, right? It took me 5 minutes. Right. So we are like ingrained from society to be kind, to be helpful, to be all these things, that 5-minute resume review, we don't believe adds a monetary value. But there are people that literally have an entire business built on that. So
that's a really great point.
and this is another thing that I do to work with women is I'm like, you have to dig deep and write out all of those things that you can do that you are just glossing over because you do it all the time and it only takes you 5 minutes and it's easy, whatever. All of those things have a price tag, and add up that price tag and ask for the dollars that you deserve.
This is such an important topic, and we need more women executives. It's on the rise. It's great, but we need you all in there. And if you're in there and you want a smooth sailing road, you need to get with Erica. I would love to hear, unless there's anything else you'd like to add, and we can talk further. But as of right now, I just want to, even though it'll be in the show notes, just want to stop and share with everyone where we can find you and how you work with people, how we can benefit more from you and your experience and your coaching.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. So you can find me wherever you listen to this podcast, on Apple, Spotify, wherever the podcast is from now to next. I drop a lot of great nuggets there on how you can build confidence, bust out of sticky floors, and break through glass ceilings. But you can also find me on LinkedIn. If you say, hey, heard you on the Elle Russ show, I will absolutely message you back. I love to connect with people there. My webpage, www.fromnowtonext.org, has all of the information about executive coaching. If you're looking for one-on-one coaching, if you're wanting to bring someone into the organization for a quick train, up of managers or leaders, I'm here for all of that as well. So just hit me up somewhere, anywhere.
I love it. What would you like to add that maybe we didn't touch on that you're finding it's important as we have this conversation?
My biggest takeaway for most people is always to ask themselves if they're doing the courageous thing. And that usually is a good shift for people, because it is the things that are hard and the scary things and the things that make us uncomfortable that we all shy away from because we're human and that's normal. But are you doing the courageous thing?
That reminds, you know what? I love that. And on that note, I would have loved your thoughts on this too, but I'll finish with this story. It's like one of those urban legends, true or not. I love it. But there was a school called Reed College in like Oregon or whatever. And I think they're still around, I'm not sure. And this is like 30 years ago. And they had, their essay question for applicants every year. You know how they prompt you with a thing sometimes. So the prompt that year was define courage.
Ooh.
Okay, that was it. And there was a blank space. And then you write and you hand it in to hopefully get into that school. This story gives me goosebumps. I even put it in my book because I love it so much. One of the applicants replied, their only reply to that, the only thing that they wrote was this, period.
I love it.
One word to show so much, because most people would be like, well, you have to fill the space. That's what they're expecting. Yeah, right? All this fear based on what you think other people are thinking. But the most courageous thing was, and also he did define it in one word with given the context. And I just love that story, because to me, it's like, wow, what the most efficient, succinct way you could possibly define it. But on so many levels, also just the boldness of it, right? That is really courageous to have put that there. And also you did define it. You answered the question, and you not only answered the question, you answered the question.
You did it.
You did it. Yeah. Like it's an active, essay, you know what I mean?
Oh, and I love it too, because it just brings my mind to this place of, for some, applying to college may be a very simple thing. Maybe you come from a long line of educated people. You were always expected to go to school. You always had the upper hand, but there is someone out there that did not have that. There is somebody out there that doesn't have educated parents. They may not even have a parental figure in the home. They don't know how they're going to pay for college or what they're going to do. So that could be scary as shit. So kudos to that person.
Yeah, I love it. Well, it's been so wonderful talking with you. And of course, we will put everything in the show notes to connect with you. And for everyone else, we will see you next week. Hey, listeners, over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture. And it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the superfood greens powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the organ complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their essential C complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products. And I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.